Let me tell you something powerful. The struggle you're facing right now isn't a punishment, it's preparation. You see, most people run from struggle. They think it's a curse, but I learned early on, struggle is a signal. It's life's way of asking, how bad do you want it? The one secret I use, the one that turned my struggle into millions, is this. I stopped fighting against the hard things and started learning from them. That's right. I learned how to make pain pay me back. Because when you stop avoiding the struggle and start mastering the lesson inside it, you unlock a power that money can't buy and people can't take away. I wasn't born into wealth. I wasn't handed opportunity. I worked a job where I made less in a week than I can now make in a minute. I know what it's like to struggle, to look at your dream and wonder if it's even worth it. But that's where the secret began to form. I realized that every struggle was shaping a skill. Every failure was forming focus. Every rejection was refining resilience. You don't build wealth by escaping struggle. You build it by extracting wisdom from struggle. The difference between the broke and the blessed is not what they go through, but what they grow through. Here's the hook. Your struggle is the seed of your success. Most people bury their struggle like it's a coffin, but I planted mine like it was a crop. I learned how to turn obstacles into opportunities by asking the right question. Instead of saying, why is this happening to me? I started asking, what is this teaching me? That one question turned my entire life around. The minute you shift your mindset from pain to purpose, you stop being a victim of your circumstances and become a visionary of your destiny. Struggle is not the sign that you're failing. It's the signal that you're being forged. I remember times when I had nothing but a dream and that dream felt heavy. But what I discovered is that struggle gives strength the same way weight gives muscle. You can't grow without resistance. The secret isn't to pray for less struggle. It's to pray for more strategy. The bigger the struggle, the greater the setup for success. See, money is attracted to mastery. Mastery is produced through repetition, and repetition happens when you refuse to quit in the middle of struggle. I didn't make millions because I had no problems. I made millions because I learned how to solve mine and then help others solve theirs. Your struggle is your certification. Every setback you survive is a credential. When you learn how to transform what hurts you into what helps others, that's when you step into purpose and profit. Don't hide your scars. They're proof that you made it through. The world doesn't pay for perfection, it pays for perspective. People don't want to buy from someone who's never struggled. They want to learn from someone who's turned struggle into success. That's why I tell people, your testimony is your trademark. Don't bury your story, build on it. The moment I stopped resenting my struggle and started respecting it, everything changed. I began to see that the same pain that tried to break me was actually building me. Struggle made me strategic. It taught me discipline. It taught me patience. It taught me how to operate in faith when the facts didn't make sense. That's the real secret. Learning to see your struggle as a partner, not an enemy. Every successful person you admire didn't avoid struggle. They mastered it. So if you're struggling right now, I want you to hear me clearly. You're not buried, you're being planted. The ground may be dark, pressure may be heavy, but the growth is happening. Don't despise your struggle because it's designing your strength. Wealth doesn't come from avoiding the grind, it comes from growing through it. My secret wasn't luck, it was leverage. I learned how to leverage every loss, every delay, every disappointment, and turn it into development. And that development turned into dollars. You've got to stop seeing struggle as punishment. Struggle is not God's way of saying you're failing. It's His way of saying, I'm preparing you. The reason most people never rise is because they misinterpret the assignment. They think the hard season means they're off track, when in reality, that season is the training ground for their breakthrough. Struggle isn't sent to stop you, it's sent to shape you. Every successful person you admire has one thing in common. They didn't escape struggle, they embraced it. They understood that greatness is not born in comfort, it's forged in challenge. Here's the truth. Struggle is the gym where success lifts its weights. You can't build strength without resistance. Every setback, every delay, every rejection is resistance training for your purpose. The harder it feels, the stronger you're getting. But if you keep running from struggle, you're robbing yourself of the very process that builds your capacity. The key is not to pray for lighter loads, but for stronger shoulders. Because when you realize that every challenge is building something inside of you, you stop complaining and start conditioning. Here's the hook. Your struggle is not the enemy. It's the evidence that something powerful is growing in you. You don't see roots when a seed is buried, but the growth is happening underground. The darkness isn't punishment, it's preparation. When you're in that hidden season, when nobody notices your effort, when you feel unseen and unheard, that's the exact environment where greatness is born. The world doesn't see your process, but when your purpose emerges, they'll call it a miracle. What they call sudden success is really the result of silent struggle. I learned that struggle doesn't disqualify you, it develops you. It teaches patience when everything takes longer than you plan. It teaches perseverance when quitting feels easier than believing. It teaches you faith when facts don't line up. Every painful moment becomes a piece of preparation for the promise that's coming. You might not see the reward yet, but that doesn't mean it's not real. Sometimes God hides your blessing inside of a battle to make sure you're ready to handle it when it arrives. Struggle also reveals who you are. Anybody can smile when things are easy, but pressure shows your character. Diamonds are formed under heat and pressure, not in comfort. Struggle exposes your weaknesses, yes, but it also uncovers your strength. The moment you stop avoiding pain and start absorbing lessons, everything shifts. You begin to realize that your past pain was positioning you for present purpose. Every tear, every disappointment, every closed door was part of the setup for your breakthrough. When I was broke, frustrated, and trying to figure out how to change my life, I didn't realize that the struggle I hated was building the discipline I'd later need to handle success. If I had skipped the struggle, I wouldn't have the structure to sustain the blessing. Struggle made me sharper, it made me focused, it made me grateful. You can't appreciate abundance until you've learned how to manage lack. You can't value opportunity until you've walked through rejection. The struggle teaches appreciation, and appreciation multiplies manifestation. The problem is that most people see struggle as a sign to stop instead of a signal to start learning. But struggle is feedback, not failure. It's showing you what to fix, what to strengthen, what to release. Every challenge is a mirror reflecting where you need growth. The people who win in life don't avoid the mirror, they study it. They take every hard season and squeeze it for wisdom until it produces something valuable. That's how you turn adversity into advantage. And I'll tell you this, struggle doesn't last, but the strength it gives you does. The pressure you feel today is preparing the power you'll need tomorrow. When you see your struggle through that lens, you stop asking, why me? And start declaring, try me. Because the moment you see struggle as preparation, you stop fearing it and start using it. Struggle becomes your proof that greatness is growing. It's not punishment, it's preparation for everything you've been praying for. Pain has a strange way of teaching you what comfort never could. The truth is, pain isn't your enemy, it's your instructor, every lesson that produces. Growth comes wrapped in discomfort, and if you can learn how to turn your pain into power, you can also turn it into profit. I learned long ago that pain will either break you or build you, depending on what you believe about it. You can let it paralyze you, or you can let it propel you. The difference between those who get stuck and those who get successful is not the pain they face, it's the perspective they choose. Pain doesn't come to stop you. It comes to shape you into someone who can handle the success waiting on the other side. Here's the hook. Pain pays those who pay attention. Every painful experience in your life carries a lesson that can lead to elevation if you extract the right wisdom from it. Most people waste their pain because they react emotionally instead of responding intelligently. They complain about what they're going through instead of collecting the insight hidden inside of it. But when you stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is this preparing me for? Everything changes. That's when pain becomes purposeful. That's when your struggle starts serving your destiny. Every season of pain in my life carried a paycheck of purpose. The problem was I had to learn how to cash it. I had to stop running from the lesson and start learning from it. The same pain that used to make me bitter became the foundation of my business. I took the lessons I learned in my lowest moments and turned them into messages that transformed lives. That's the secret. If you can package the pain you survived into a solution that helps others survive, that's when pain becomes profit. You're sitting on $1 million story, you just have to stop hiding from it. Pain builds capacity. You can't handle big blessings with a small mindset, and pain is what stretches your thinking. It exposes where your limits are and gives you a chance to expand beyond them. You don't grow through success. You grow through struggle. Pain refines your priorities. It redefines your purpose, and it reminds you of what truly matters. When you experience loss, you learn gratitude. When you go through betrayal, you learn discernment. When you face failure, you learn strategy. Pain is not random, it's revelatory. It reveals what needs healing, what needs improving, and what needs releasing. Here's what I discovered. Pain is the down payment on progress. You can't have one without the other. The people who succeed at the highest levels have learned to transmute pain into power. They don't avoid hard things, they extract value from them. They understand that pain is part of the process that polishes purpose. You can't become pure gold without going through the fire. And every time you survive another round, you come out stronger, wiser, and more valuable. Pain creates resilience, and resilience is the currency of champions. When you experience pain, you're being trained for prosperity. Every emotional scar you carry is a reminder that you didn't quit when you could have. That's powerful. Pain teaches persistence, and persistence builds empires. The person who keeps moving through pain becomes unstoppable. When pain shows up, it's testing your belief system. It's asking, do you still believe when it's not easy? And when you answer yes, the reward follows. Faith that has never been tested cannot be trusted. Pain proves your faith. I had to learn that pain isn't there to punish you. It's there to position you. The most painful seasons in my life were also the most productive, because E forced me to look at myself differently. They forced me to develop skills, build endurance, and lean on faith instead of feelings. Pain made me strategic. It made me resourceful. It made me realize that if I could survive that, I could survive anything. That kind of confidence becomes the foundation of success. So when you're in pain, don't waste it, don't numb it, name it, learn from it, and use it. Because pain only destroys what you refuse to understand. The moment you start learning from it, it becomes the most powerful force in your favor. Every time you've been hurt, you've been handed raw material for greatness. The question is, will you let that pain define you or design you? Pain is not your prison, it's your path. The secret is not to avoid it, but to extract every ounce of wisdom and turn that wisdom into wealth. Because pain, when processed correctly, doesn't just make you stronger, it makes you unstoppable. Every struggle you face carries a message inside it, but most people never hear it because they're too busy running from it. They see struggle as a storm instead of a school. The truth is, struggle is the classroom where wisdom is taught. If you can stop running from struggle and start learning from it, you can turn every obstacle into an opportunity. That's what I had to learn. Struggle isn't something you escape. It's something you extract value from. Every painful moment, every disappointment, every closed door contains a lesson that can lead you straight to elevation. The question is never, why am I going through this? The real question is, what is this trying to teach me? Here's the hook. Struggle doesn't come to stop you, it comes to show you. It shows you where you need growth, what you need to release, and who you need to become to handle the next level. Every successful person you admire has one thing in common. They learned how to study their struggle. They turned their frustration into focus. They stopped reacting emotionally and started responding intentionally. That's how you make struggle serve you instead of suffocate you. You either get bitter from struggle or you get better. But the choice is yours. The problem is most people waste their struggle because they keep complaining about what's happening instead of learning why it's happening. Complaining keeps you stuck in the same cycle, but learning breaks you free. You can't change what you won't confront, and you can't confront what you refuse to understand. When you slow down and reflect on what the struggle is trying to show you, you find strategies hidden inside of it. Struggle reveals systems. Struggle reveals solutions. Struggle reveals strength you didn't even know you had. Every difficulty is an invitation to discover a new dimension of yourself. I learned that every struggle I went through was refining something in me that comfort never could. When you learn from struggle, you start to see that what you once called a setback was really a setup. You start realizing that the closed doors weren't rejection, they were redirection. Every loss carried a lesson, and every lesson carried leverage. When you learn from struggle, you stop repeating cycles that keep you small. You begin to move differently, think differently, and live differently. You evolve because you understand. Struggle becomes your greatest teacher, not your worst enemy. Think about it. If life was easy, you would never grow. Struggle stretches you beyond what's familiar. It forces you to innovate, to adapt, to build resilience. It teaches you how to stand when it's easier to sit down. When you're struggling, you're actually building spiritual and emotional muscle. And that muscle is what allows you to carry the weight of your destiny later on. If you can't handle small struggles, how will you handle big blessings? The process of learning from struggle builds capacity for greater success. Here's something I realized. You can't outrun struggle, but you outgrow it. Once you learn the lesson it came to teach, it loses its power over you. The same challenge that once broke you begins to bless you. The same pain that once defined you becomes the platform that refines you. When you learn from struggle, you don't just survive it, you master it, you start using it as material for your purpose. You start teaching others how to overcome what once overcame you. And that's where true transformation happens. When your struggle becomes someone else's solution, learning from struggle means taking responsibility for your reaction. You may not control what happens, but you control what it means. You control how you respond, how you grow, how you move forward. The moment you stop saying, this is happening to me, and start saying, this is happening for me, everything changes. That's when struggle stops being a burden and starts being a blessing. The experience doesn't change, your perception does. And that perception determines your power. So when struggle shows up, don't run from it. Read it, study it, squeeze every ounce of wisdom out of it until it turns into understanding. The people who succeed are not the ones who never face hardship. They're the ones who turn their hardship into higher ground. Every struggle is a secret message from your destiny, teaching you something essential for your next level. If you learn from it instead of running from it, that struggle will become your stepping stone to success. Because struggle, when studied, becomes strategy. And strategy, when applied, becomes success. Your story is not your shame, it's your strategy. The very things you've been through, the pain, the rejection, the struggle, the setbacks, are not there to embarrass you, they're there to empower you. Most people spend their lives hiding their story because they think it makes them look weak. But what they don't realize is that your story is your greatest source of strength. It's the bridge between where you were and where you're going, and it's the evidence that you've survived what others didn't. Every scar you carry is a silent certificate that says, I made it through. The world doesn't connect with perfection. It connects with authenticity. And authenticity is born out of story. Here's the hook. The thing you're trying to hide might be the very thing that's supposed to help someone else heal. The same story that makes you feel unqualified is the one that makes you powerful. You can't inspire people with victories you never fought for. You inspire people when you show them that you bled, but you still built. That you cried, but you still continued. That you failed, but you still believed. That's the power of your story. It turns your wounds into wisdom and your scars into strategy. You're not here to impress people, you're here to impact them. And impact only happens when you're real enough to be relatable. When I first started sharing my story, I didn't realize how much power was hidden in my pain. I thought people wanted the polished version, the success, the results, the rewards, but what they connected with most was the struggle behind the success. They wanted to know that I'd been where they are now, that I know what it's like to have nothing. That I've walked through seasons of doubt and fear and still found a way to keep moving. That's when I realized something profound. Your story doesn't make you less valuable, it makes you accessible. People don't buy products, they buy the person behind the story. Your authenticity builds trust, and trust builds transformation. When you own your story, you stop letting shame write your script. You stop allowing your past to silence your potential. Your past was never meant to imprison you. It was meant to instruct you. Every part of your story, the pain, the failure, the waiting, was preparation for the platform you're meant to stand on. You can't teach from theory, you teach from testimony. You can't guide Psalm E1 out of darkness if you've never walked through it yourself. What disqualified you in your own eyes might be the exact reason God qualified you in His, because He doesn't use perfection, He uses progression. Your story also separates you from the crowd. In a world full of imitation, authenticity is currency. Nobody can compete with your story because nobody else lived it. The experiences that broke you also built your uniqueness. That's why you never need to compete. You just need to complete your assignment. When you turn your story into strategy, it becomes your brand, your message, your movement. You stop chasing success and start attracting it, because authenticity always draws attention. Realness cuts through the noise like a blade. People can sense truth. And when you speak from your scars instead of your ego, it hits different. Here's what most people miss. Your story has two purposes: to set you free and to free others. Every time you share it, you strip power away from your past and give power to your purpose. What once made you cry can now make you credible. What once made you doubt yourself can now demonstrate your strength. The lessons you learned through survival are the same lessons others are praying for right now. When you share your story, you become the proof that breakthrough is possible. And proof is powerful. People don't follow words, they follow witness. Your story is not a liability, it's leverage. It gives your voice weight. It gives your brand soul. It gives your mission meaning. You don't have to fabricate a persona. You just have to be honest about your process, because the process is what gives your purpose authenticity. So stop hiding behind fear and start standing in your truth. The things you thought disqualified you are the things that make your message unforgettable. Your story is not where you lost, it's where you learned. And every time you tell it, you're not just reminding yourself of how far you've come, you're giving someone else permission to believe that they can make it too. That's the real power of your story. It turns your past into purpose and your pain into profit. Most people wait for the perfect conditions before they take action. But the truth is, perfection is a prison that stops progress. The secret that separates achievers from dreamers is simple. They act while they're still uncertain. They don't wait until they feel ready. They move until readiness meets them on the road. Action is the bridge between vision and manifestation. You can have all the ideas, all the inspiration, and all the motivation in the world, but if you never execute, it all evaporates. The people who change their lives are not the ones who know the most. They're the ones who move the most. They understand that motion creates momentum, and momentum makes miracles possible. Here's the hook. Hesitation is the silent killer of destiny. Every time you delay your action, you dilute your dream. You tell the universe you're not serious about what you say you want. And guess what? The universe responds to conviction, not convenience. You don't get clarity before you act. You get clarity because you act. Every step you take, even if it's small, gives you feedback, direction, and understanding. But if you stand still waiting for everything to make sense, you'll never move at all. Success doesn't require certainty. It requires courage. And courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the decision to move forward in spite of it. When I started my journey, I didn't have it all figured out. I didn't have the connections, the credentials, or even the confidence. But I had a conviction, and conviction was enough to get me started. Too many people want to skip the messy middle. They want to go from idea to impact without the in-between. But the truth is, greatness is built in the grind, not the glamour. You have to be willing to take imperfect action, to fail forward, to look foolish temporarily in or to live powerfully permanently. Because every action, even the ones that don't work out, teaches you something valuable. Every no refines your next move. Every mistake sharpens your mastery. Action is what turns potential into proof. You can't think your way into success. You've got to move your way into it. You can pray, plan, and prepare, but eventually you've got to press. Because faith without works is dead, and dreams without deeds are delusions. When you move, you tell life that you're ready to receive what's waiting for you. You activate the energy that aligns opportunities, resources, and relationships in your direction. Action attracts attention, not just from people, but from possibility itself. Every move you make puts you on the radar of destiny. The reason most people never reach their next level is because they underestimate the power of small, consistent steps. They think big breakthroughs require big beginnings, but that's not how it works. The seed never looks like the tree, and the first step never looks like the finish line. You've got to learn how to value progress over perfection. You might not see the fruit immediately, but every action you take is watering your future. Every call, every message, every attempt, it all compounds. And one day, what looked like small effort will turn into massive impact. The truth is, action transforms you. The moment you move, you shift your identity from someone who's waiting to someone who's creating. You stop being a dreamer and start being a doer. You begin to build confidence not from external results, but from internal evidence. The proof that you can trust yourself to show up. Confidence doesn't come from success, it comes from consistency. And consistency is born out of disciplined action. The more you move, the more momentum you build, and momentum makes quitting feel unnatural. Here's what I learned. Fear doesn't disappear before you act. It dissolves after you act. Every time you take a step, fear loses its grip on you. Every time you do what you've been avoiding, your power grows. You don't need to see the whole staircase. You just need to take the next step, because the staircase only appears to those who climb. The world doesn't reward hesitation. It rewards execution. So if you're waiting for a sign, this is it. Start now. Don't wait for the perfect plan. Perfect it as you go. Don't wait for all the answers. Let action reveal them. The greatest opportunities will never show up for people who stand still. They appear to those who move in faith. Action is the language of belief. And when you speak it fluently, the world responds. Every dream has a due date. And that date begins the moment you decide to stop waiting and start walking. The power to change your life is not in your thoughts. It's in your steps. And every step you take moves you closer to the version of yourself that you were created to become. Success doesn't begin when everything around you changes. It begins when everything inside you does. The secret most people miss is that wealth, purpose, and transformation are not external pursuits. They are internal awakenings. You can't manifest abundance with a scarcity mindset. You can't build a prosperous life if your beliefs are still bound by limitation. What you think determines what you create, and what you believe determines what you become. The truth is, you don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. Until you transform your thinking, your reality will keep repeating. That's why mindset is not a luxury, it's a necessity. Your thoughts are the architects of your destiny. Here's the hook. If you want to change your life, you must first change the story you tell yourself about who you are and what's possible for you. Most people sabotage their success because they're living according to an outdated identity. They keep trying to build a new future with an old framework. But transformation doesn't come through For it alone, it comes through evolution. You have to renew your mind before you can rebuild your life. The battles that stop you are never really outside you. They're happening between your ears. You can't conquer what you keep believing is stronger than you. The only real enemy to your success is the version of you that refuses to grow. When I learned how to change my mind, everything else began to change automatically. I realized that the limitations I thought were around me were actually inside me. I wasn't waiting on opportunities. Opportunities were waiting on me to believe I was ready. The moment I shifted my perspective, my possibilities expanded. That's the power of mindset. It turns obstacles into options. The same circumstance that used to frustrate me became fuel when I changed how I saw it, because you don't see life as it is. You see it as you are. When you elevate your perspective, even your problems start to look like preparation. A renewed mindset also changes how you handle failure. Most people let failure define them. Successful people let failure develop them. When you think from a place of growth instead of guilt, every mistake becomes a message. You stop saying, I failed, and start saying, I learned. And that shift right there, that's freedom. It's what allows you to take risks, to step into uncertainty, to pursue greatness without the fear of falling. Because you understand that failure isn't the opposite of success. It's the ingredient of it. You don't grow through comfort, you grow through correction. Every time life corrects you, it's really trying to perfect you. Transformation is not about acquiring more, it's about becoming more. It's not about what you get, it's about who you grow into in the process. You can't receive on a level your mindset hasn't risen to. That's why so many people lose the very blessings they prayed for. They received them before they were ready to sustain them. The goal isn't just to get money, it's to have the mindset that can multiply it. The goal isn't just to find purpose, it's to become the person who can carry it. When your mind grows, your life grows automatically. The expansion happens from the inside out. Here's what I discovered. Mindset is not a moment, it's a maintenance plan. You have to keep renewing it every single day, because the world will always try to pull you back into average thinking, into doubt, into fear. That's why you can't afford to just motivate yourself once in a while. You have to master your mindset daily. Every morning you decide whether you'll think like your potential or think like your past. And whichever one you feed is the one that leads. You can't think scarcity and live abundance. You can't think fear and walk in freedom. Your life follows the direction of your dominant thoughts. When you transform your mind, you no longer chase success. Success starts to chase you because now you're aligned with the frequency of faith, focus, and forward motion. You start seeing opportunities where others see obstacles. You start recognizing divine timing instead of complaining about delays. You begin to operate from purpose instead of pressure. And that's when life begins to shift in your favor, not because the world changed, but because you did. The mind is the engine of every manifestation. What you think about, you bring about. So if you want to change your bank account, change your beliefs. If you want to shift your environment, shift your energy. If you want to transform your reality, transform your reasoning. Everything you desire begins with how you decide to think. The greatest wealth you will ever build is not in your wallet, it's in your wisdom. Because once your mindset is rich, your results can't stay poor. Change your mind and you'll change your life. Permanently, powerfully, and purposefully. So don't run from what's hard. Embrace it, learn from it, and use it. Because the same fire that melts wax hardens clay. You get to decide which one you'll be. When you start to see your struggle as a teacher, not a tormentor, you'll discover that the very thing that once held you back was actually pushing you forward. That's how I turned my struggle into millions. That's how you can turn yours into mastery. Because struggle doesn't come to stop you. It comes to shape you for the success that's already waiting on the other side.